Hey everyone, welcome back to the Attention Economy. And today we're here with one of the founders of Krowe, a new startup based in the Austin and San Antonio area. So, the first question I have for you today is what problem did you see that made you think that someone should fix this? And why did you decide that person should be you specifically?
So yeah, the kind of problem we saw, it was mainly just a gap in general that kind of correlated with it. So what we saw was that there was a lot of students kind of like myself who had the technical capabilities with artificial intelligence to kind of develop software. And there was a lot of small business owners out there who know that they needed like AI inside their businesses, but just they didn't know how, they didn't have the time or the knowledge to implement it themselves. So there's a gap between them too. So we kind of saw in ourselves, wanted to bridge that gap and connecting both of them together. So it's kind of the gap we saw. And the reason I felt like I was the one to build this is because I kind of taken advantage of that gap myself. So I work currently at a law firm where I develop their entire internal systems and their client systems as well. And I kind of took advantage of that gap. And that's kind of where I saw the market opportunity.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And can you describe like the specific mechanisms in which like your company uses to solve the problem that you just described?
So yeah, what we do is to kind of make it easier for kind of like me, anyone really, to kind of be like a AI agency or be a freelance developer. So we use kind of AI agents to automate the document creation process. So we kind of take from any SOP call, you can create a PRD, contract and quote straight from there accurately and easily send it to your client as well. You can easily send task and send a repository as well to your client as well and easily hand off the project at the end. So mainly the only thing that someone like me who's a developer would have to focus on when dealing with a client is just building it out and we handle all the rest.
Okay. Yeah, I see how that would simplify and streamline the process. And moving to, I would say, like a more student-focused question. You know, a lot of students, I think you included, would be focused on classes, internships, and recruiting. So, what made you decide to found a company instead, or even in tandem with these other commitments?
So yeah, I just felt like just taking advantage of like the time I had. So my internships, I'm really lucky with mine. It lets me do a lot of things remote. So I could really take advantage of that and start a company and run my company at the same time and work for them as the internship being said. So just I'm I guess in a really different position than most people. But I would say just if you want it bad, you can go ahead and get it. Just making the time for it. An internship's good. It opens lots of doors. Like for instance, through my internship, my boss is a part of my board of advisors, and he's opening me a lot of doors in the VC realm already. He's a board of advisors for the an angel group in San Antonio. So that right there, just doing an internship opens a lot of doors and helps if you're technical, broaden your technical abilities and whatever other domain you're in.
Yeah, sure. I think that makes a lot of sense. And I would say, like, what was the hardest part of going from an idea to something actually real and concrete that people would actually use?
So yeah, I think the hardest part is just building something that people would use. So a lot of people out there kind of just build something based on their personal problems, which is the main way you should go ahead and start, I would say. But again, build your one problem probably wouldn't be someone else's problem, and it wouldn't be something someone else would pay for, what you would pay for. So I guess the hardest part for me and for all my previous ventures has been kind of finding a problem to start out with that I personally face and adapting it to being something that everyone else in that market, all the other target customers in that industry as well, kind of face as well, and making it to a product that they would actually pay for and they would use and solve a pain point that is, I guess, very needed in that sense.
And speaking of, I would say like going from like a personal to I guess like a broader kind of approach to a problem. How do you determine, I guess, what others would prefer in your product, even though they may face the same problem and go about it in different ways?
So yeah, I would say like the biggest I guess question that comes up here whenever we kind of developing like a SaaS like ours is what stops someone else from like developing them themselves, especially since our target customers are like developers. What stops them for developing like a productivity tool? So I guess it really just comes down to whenever you're selling is not only would they kind of solve the pain point, is how you position the product. Can you position it in a way that's not easily replicable, right? So kind of how we want to position Crow in general is being like the middleman. So kind of like a security or like a tool of leverage. So like for instance, like if a 16-year-old went to like a medium-sized business and try to pitch them building out their systems and give me all your client data, right? They'd obviously be a little skeptical about the security concerns. Like how exactly are we going to manage this? Are you just going to send it to me via email? How can I trust you like that? So how we want to position Crow is being the way to easily bridge that gap in security. You send it through Crow, it's super secure. They're the middleman. They handle all the security aspects of it. So that 16-year-old can build out that system. And that right there isn't easily replicable because that right there is just a brand image. And that's another thing. Branding is becoming a big part nowadays of something like this.
Yeah, for sure. And especially like going back to how, especially like your database makes it, I guess, more streamlined and accessible for even like students to build and scale their own businesses. So, along that line, I would say, how do you balance being a full-time student while running a startup?
It's honestly rough, I would say. So it's like a lot of late nights. You would obviously do need to make some sacrifices here and there. You obviously have to tell yourself you can't be like a normal student, right? You can't, I guess, experience the same things as much as other people do. Don't have the same luxury as other people do to kind of like relax as much. Since that's the kind of like the life you choose going through it, you have to kind of take advantage of the gaps in your schedule and use that time to build out rather than kind of like hanging out with friends or going just like going home and doom scrolling on your phone or something like that, right? So it just kind of really down to if you want it, you have to like be okay with choosing kind of that life, making sacrifices, knowing that if you have some important meeting the next day, you can't go out with your friends that night, things like that. So if that's the life you want to choose, you have to be ready to go down that path and make sacrifices. So that's kind of like what I have to do, make sacrifices. I try to balance it very well. It just really also comes down to time management as well. How can you do your things? When do you plan to do them? Getting your assignments done early so you don't not scrambling. You don't have double deadlines. You don't have an assignment due one night and then an investor meeting the next morning, and you have to prepare for both in one night. So it just comes down to time management as well. So
Yeah, I think especially working full time on a startup, I feel like is definitely all about time management. And I guess similar but different line. Was there a moment when you realized that Crow had genuine potential, like as a full-scale business rather than being a side project, or did it even start like that in the first place?
So I would say it started off as a side project, but not in the way you would think. So kind of how it started off, Crow, was we kind of just did the AI automation stuff ourselves. So we kind of had like our own agency on the side that we worked for, and we kind of just like did stuff for small businesses for a previous venture we were starting, which was like a previous kind of like idea completely. So we kind of using that side revenue to fund it. And in doing so, we kind of just heard a lot of feedback from small business owners. And in doing so, we kind of realized, hey, for one, like this might be like a real problem here. And that's kind of when we realized we should go down this path. And as far as like making a full project, we had started having like investors come up to us, kind of saying like, hey, saw what you're doing. I want to keep an eye on you. As of right now, we don't have a lot of traction. We just launched a product, I believe, a couple of days ago. So we don't have a lot of traction. We have about 16 users as of right now. But those investors coming up saying they're keeping an eye, and then once we get that traction, they would love to be a part of our journey. So that right there is kind of like signal enough for us that we're on the right track right now, and we kind of just have to keep going. And yeah.
Yeah. And for sure, I think no one will tell like where exactly it will go, but I I feel like that's kind of the cool thing about small businesses. And I think the last question is if you could go back to freshman year and give you and your co-founders maybe one piece of advice, what would it be?
I would say really just talk to customers first. We spent a lot of our freshman year just building, just trying to build stuff out and just, I guess, market it, right? So just building out, market it, and see if people would come to us rather than building something, market it, and then try and reach out to potential users and try to get them on a customer interview. So I would say mainly if I could go back to my freshman year, I would say let's start off doing customer interviews while building out slowly but surely. Maybe even just build out some mock-ups just to show them and kind of start it off from there rather than just like going full all in like we already have it validated as we do now.
Yeah, I think today's been really cool being able to talk to you, and especially like as a student founder. That's kind of all I have for today, so thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, of course.